And welcome to the car park just outside Exeter St David's, and here we are on a rather wet and gloomy Sunday morning at the start of April. And I'm going to go on quite a long run from Exeter today because I'm going to pick up cross country in one of its Voyagers from here all the way up to Leeds. Now I'll be going first class on this journey, which will be nice, although we'll probably get a look at second class. It's probably a revisit of the Class 220 Voyagers. They've been plying their trade up this line now since about 2001, so 2024, that's 23 years, and nobody really likes them, do they? But are they that bad? I've ridden on them many, many times, and probably my feeling before we set off and have a fresh look is that, yeah, they're okay. Certainly first class, the seats are reasonably comfortable considering they're 25 years old, and I do read that they are actually going to start to refurbish them and maybe cascade some more down from other places. So I don't know, we'll see how this one goes, won't we? Let's get ourselves onto the station and over the footbridge to platform 5 for this cross-country service to Leeds. Oh, and I just noticed the old mural on the stair has an InterCity swallow. And since my last visit here, they've been busy adding book-themed murals to the overbridge. They're pretty neat, and they certainly create a bit of a talking point. So what's interesting about this run is that it's Sunday and there's a complete line closure at Burton-on-Trent. So the route's going to be slightly different. What we'll be doing is leaving Exeter St David's and then going north up to Bristol Temple Meads and Bristol Parkway through Cheltenham, and then we'll get to Birmingham. We're going to come out of Birmingham and then go across through Nuneaton to Leicester, and then from Leicester up to Derby that way, calling it Derby, and that will take us an extra hour, and then from Derby it's then north to Sheffield, Wakefield, and then Leeds. I'm quite looking forward to this rather extended, I think 5 3/4 hour journey in first class, and yeah, I'm just sort of looking forward to a nice chill out on the train on a Sunday. And here's our Voyager, and it's a single 4-car set capable of 125 miles per hour or 200 kilometers per hour, although I don't think we'll get any chance to get up to those kind of speeds between here and Leeds. And after a bit of passenger faffing about, we all settle down in first class. And almost immediately I'm provided with a cup of tea and a chocolate brownie. Well, things are looking up. Tiverton and then Taunton pass in pretty quick succession as I settle into my first class seat and polish off that tea and cake. First class is already reasonably busy, maybe about half the seats have been taken. And just before Bristol, there's a branch here that goes to Portbury Dock. And there's plans to reopen the whole of this line to Portishead for passenger traffic, maybe in the next few years. Temple Meads is still being renovated, and I will do a trip starting from here one day, but I'm going to wait until all the scaffold has gone. The Bristol area is slated to get quite a number of new stations, and Ashley Down looks close to completion. Filton and Stoke Gifford junctions are part of a large diamond of lines formed where we meet the South Wales line. Bristol Parkway was opened in 1972 and was part of the 1970s move by British Rail to embrace car ownership, giving people the chance to park and then ride. The branch for the Westerly oil terminal passes underneath us, just before Westerly Junction, which is where we will leave the London line to swing northbound. At Gloucester, the line for the station turns off Westerly, but we're going to go directly past Gloucester New Yard and on into Cheltenham. As the first class coach is at the rear of the set, we haven't seen just how many standard class passengers have been boarding the train. However, this service is now pretty busy in standard, and there's still a few seats left in first. Incidentally, I did not have a seat reservation, but I sat in an empty seat that was reserved from Plymouth to Sheffield. I heard another passenger asking for their seat to be blocked out by the train manager, and when I inquired, she said she could do the same for me, and then she set the seat reservation on my seat as Exeter to Leeds. You know, I didn't know you could ask for that, which is really quite handy. And I catch sight of the 3 curved roofs of Queen Elizabeth Hospital, which means we must be close to Birmingham. And past Five Ways and through the tunnels we go until we pop out at New Street Station, which is always gloomy at platform level whatever the time of day or the weather.
Tickets from Birmingham New Street, please.
As we leave on the eastern approaches, there's lots of HS2 infrastructure work to be spied. And then we get some views of the container terminal and also the West Midland Signalling Centre. Water Orton is where our usual line turns northeast to Tamworth, Burton and Derby, but today we have to go the long way round through Nuneaton and Leicester. Just before Nuneaton we cross over the West Coast main line and then sneak quietly through Nuneaton station before continuing on towards Leicester. Oh, and at Nuneaton there's a rail grinding train. You know, I'm going to have to read up on how they work. And at Wigston, just south of Leicester, we have to slow down in order to join the Midland main line. The freight-only line to Burton-on-Trent spurs off here. And whilst there's talk of reinstating a passenger service, there's now buildings covering the northern edge of this railway triangle, which means it would be very difficult to run trains to and from Leicester. We come to a stop just south of Leicester awaiting a path through the station. Whilst Leicester is maybe a bit of a dreary station, our passing is enlivened by a Class 66 in Barbie pink. Now we're on the Midland main line, the Voyager should be able to push our speed up to above 100 miles per hour. It's interesting, the tarmac sidings at Barrow-on-Soar are serviced by getting on for 3 kilometres of conveyors that bring the processed granite from the nearby Mount Sorrel quarry. Soon we're passing another Parkway station, this one of course much newer than the one in Bristol. After East Midlands Parkway, we can cross over the River Trent and begin to head out northwesterly for the railway town of Derby. There's interesting trains at Derby, including a lovely old Class 37, some Class 43 power cars now in the employ of Network Rail, and all sorts of intriguing yellow permanent way equipment. And we arrive in Derby spot on time at 14:29, and I have to report I'm having a very relaxing trip indeed. North of Derby we run alongside the River Derwent, up past Duffield, which has a mainline station and also is the terminus of the preserved Wirksworth branch line, a line where I actually got to drive some diesel trains myself. And at Ambergate the Derwent Valley line leaves us for Matlock and we stay on the Midland main line. Well, you may have been expecting a look at the standard class seating, but by now our tiny 4-car unit is completely standing room only in the corridors and the aisles throughout standard class, so I'm just going to have to stay here in first. And there's just time for a quick look at the twisted spire before we rattle through Chesterfield without stopping. And for once I don't mind a short delay here, as we get a chance to view the very recently reopened platform at Dore and Totley Station. It's always good to see the railway being improved in this way. Oh boy, I hope a lot of people are getting off at Sheffield because a lot of people are wanting to get on. Still, on the plus side, if you can't fit onto the train, at least you can drown your sorrows at the Sheffield tap. Prices of tickets for this ride vary wildly depending on when you buy. Walk-up fares for off-peak singles are eye-wateringly priced at £127.50 for standard and over £400 in first class. Advance tickets can come down to £42.50 and around £187 respectively, but you have to be quick to get those prices. You could also maybe buy a second-class ticket and then use Seatfrog to upgrade to first. The Hallam line passes underneath us on its way into Wakefield Kirkgate as we continue our way along the viaduct to Westgate Station. And at Wakefield there's still a few seats left in first class,
And I do have to report that the seats remain very comfortable even after so many years of use. The seating choice that Virgin Trains made all those years ago has stood the test of time very well indeed. As we are arriving into Leeds, I'm ready for a few adventures in the north of England, and I hope you will join me for future videos when I'll be looking at a couple of scenic routes that you can take out of Leeds. Maybe you can guess which ones they are.
Well, I thought the interior of the Voyager cabin, certainly for first class, was fine, and considering it was such a long journey, a pretty comfortable seat still, even 25 years in. But I think the one thing that really causes all the problems travelling on those Voyagers was really clear today. I was going to show you some of second class, but actually there was no way I could get down into the other three coaches to show you standard class, because it was absolutely rammed with people for pretty much the whole journey. I just nipped to the toilet at one point in first class, and the corridor just outside the toilet was completely full and standing of standard class passengers. And really, that's what passengers are going to remember, isn't it? If that train had been 9 coaches long, then life would have been so much better. But it wasn't, and as a result, they get a bad name. So I suspect, yeah, that's the truth of it, really. They're not as bad as people say, but they are really bad if you end up standing all the way from Bristol to Birmingham, or Birmingham to Leeds, or whatever. Then your memory of your journey on the Voyager, it's miserable. So yes, first class, it was very pleasant. I was surprised that there was still catering on, just a cup of tea and a biscuit kind of thing, but yeah, pretty nice. And the staff, of course, were all very professional and very good. So yeah, here we are in Leeds, and I'm going to be doing a few trips around the north of England now for the next few days. But in the meantime, from Leeds Station, what used to be called Leeds City as I recall, it's goodbye, and thank you very much for watching.
And as Johnny says, thank you very much for watching, and do join me again on my travels around the UK and Europe.